I'd love to see Wilford Brimley as James Bond.
Diabetes. Yeah, exactly. I got to stop for a second to give myself my diabetes injection. I'm sorry. Rest in peace. Love you, Wilford.
All right, nerds. Nerd alert. Back here with Brandon.
And Jimmy.
We're talking about some James Bond news.
I love me some James Bond.
I've been a huge fan of James Bond. My first kind of James Bond in my generation was Pierce Brosnan. Mm-hmm. Those were classics. I since throughout my life have gone through and watched almost all the James Bond films. I love the way they did the Daniel Craig and ended with the Daniel Craig. It ended definitively, which is not something we've ever really gotten from Bond before for any reason. So we now know that going forward, it is going to be a brand new, established, fresh take.
And we don't know where we are. We don't know how it's going to happen. We don't know who's going to be what. Before it was just, what interesting way are they going to introduce this new actor who is James Bond?
Yeah, and it's fun spy stuff. But that was the thing I liked about the Daniel Craig is you actually watched him go from like a new recruit. Yeah, a new recruit to a 00 agent. So, I mean, you get to see Daniel Craig start as a new recruit. He basically becomes a 00 in the opening credits of that first one. And you see him build and you get this full, complete story. Now we're going into a brand new, it's going to be a new director, new James Bond, new everything.
New story. And I know this is different because Cubby Broccoli has been in for a while, but now we have the new production team. Like,
it's going to be a whole new
it's really a fresh start. And the rumor is, early talks.
Big rumor. There's nothing official. He has commented on the idea of it, but nothing has been concrete, so we're not reporting anything official.
No.
But there is talks online that Christopher Nolan may be in contention to be the new director.
Yep. And the rumor is that he would do 2 movies.
Unbelievable.
Which is also funny. We talk about Daniel Craig. I remember when he was first cast, and I think we were talking about this, they were throwing him out. There's no way James Bond can be blonde. And like that's the critique.
Dude, I honestly think like he's my favorite James Bond. He was outstanding.
He did. And you referenced earlier Pierce Brosnan. Mine was Roger Moore. It's one of the worst James Bond movies, but I remember seeing in the theater A View to a Kill, and that's like one of my favorite movies. I fully understand it's not a good movie, but because I saw it in the theater with my dad, I'm like, this movie's amazing.
We talked about Batman '89 a couple weeks ago. That was my gold standard for a long time.
As you grow up, revisit and understand it's not good, but still have the fun.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great way to put it. I don't know. I mean, with Oppenheimer, with Tenet, with his last few movies being, I mean, even Inception, all this other stuff, like been these insane, crazy blockbusters. It's weird to think about him jumping into any type of franchise right now. Yeah. But if he is going to do a 2 movie sign from the beginning, you're doing 2 movies. I'm really excited to see a story he could tell from that.
Most definitely, because I think the last 2 movies we saw from James Bond, they weren't meant at the time because Spectre was basically going to be it for Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
But then they brought him back for No Time to Die. And that really turned into a great duology in ending his run as James Bond. We frequently only get one-shot movies when it comes to James Bond. Yes, we have characters like Blofeld that'll keep showing up, but for the most part, it's one and done.
Mm-hmm.
I think Nolan, with his experience, and this is going way back, Memento, his storytelling, how he just laid out this plan, and the whole time we're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Tenet, similarly.
Inception.
You can do this with James Bond and a spy mission and a big baddie, and it would be something we've never seen in the James Bond world, and it would take him to this next level of status versus a lot of the movies you and I grew up with, which are just like, let's see what kind of action sequences James Bond can get into.
And I think to speak in Christopher Nolan's defense, if you look at a movie like The Dark Knight, still, for being older now, oh my God, that movie still holds up.
Yeah.
And the thing that I always talked about that movie was that if you took everybody out of the costumes and everything, it's still a good crime movie. So if he can still do a good spy movie, which I think he is more than capable of doing at this point, we can get a really cool, interesting take on James Bond. Question is, who's going to be Bond?
So we kind of talked about this off screen, and one of the funny comments was, well, if it is Nolan, are we going to see Cillian Murphy? Are we going to see Christian Bale?
With that?
Like, are we going to see Matthew McConaughey?
All right. I'll tell you.
But you know the one I thought that I really liked?
Bond girls.
Idris Elba has come up, and I love Idris Elba. In Luther, phenomenal, but he himself has sort of taken himself out of the running.
he has come out and said like it's been in talks for so long, he's completely over it. I think there was a time when he would have been a really cool James Bond.
Yeah.
That time has probably passed.
And sometimes like Clive Owen would have been an amazing Bond, but
it just Clive Owen would have been great. Bond.
Work out. But the one I want to throw at you, which is a little off, and just remember, at one point, James Brolin was going to be James Bond, an American. David Washington from Tenet.
I'd be cool with that.
I thought he was phenomenal in that movie.
I mean, in Tenet, he was outstanding.
Yeah.
Everything he's been in, he
Ballers. I thought he was great.
It's almost like his dad like taught him acting. Who's his dad? Somebody famous, right?
Yeah, it's like I dare you to call him a nepo baby because he's just so good.
No, but he's good on his own.
I know.
It's not anything
like Adam Sandler. I included my kids in this movie. It's like, what? Okay.
Yeah, like
I love you, Adam Sandler.
No, 100%. I mean, I was going to say something too, but we're not
jumping
down that one. But no, I mean, he is easily becoming an incredible actor in his own right, and I would be down to see him something like this.
I know he's not British.
Do the British are the British like? Is that an American thing, or do Britain like? Does London stand behind? Or does England stand behind James Bond as a character, or do they not give a shit?
I don't.
Like, if they had an American play, would they just be like?
I think they've gotten more.
Like Doctor Who, I know.
We got to make this British. But at one time, literally, George Lazenby was Australian, so he was the second James Bond for one movie.
But was that close enough that they were just like, oh, it's fine? Like,
but literally in the 80s, when they were trying to figure out who was going to be next, James Brolin, who is Josh Brolin's dad, was in line to potentially be James Bond, and that always cracks me up.
Did people like lose their? Well,
no,
the internet didn't have message boards and stuff, so it's
we didn't have the internet back then, so they didn't know until more recently. But no, it was a thing. It was a potential.
I don't know, man. I feel like
which is why we got Octopussy and A View to a Kill, because Roger Moore kept going into his 60s.
He was like, I can still do this. It's like Hugh Jackman as Logan. It's like, why? Come on, man.
Is Hugh Jackman as Logan now the same age as Roger Moore when he was finishing up James Bond, and brings in the Wilford Brimley effect of, I'm the same age as Wilford Brimley in Cocoon.
I'd love to see Wilford Brimley as James Bond. We could do. It's the only time I'd really be into AI.
Diabetes. Yeah, exactly. I got to stop for a second to give myself my diabetes injection. I'm sorry. Rest in peace. Love you, Wilford. All right.
All right.
Nerd out.